So I thought I would first say thank you for inviting me to be a part of your lecture series. Very, very excited about this. So thank you. So today, we're just gonna cover a variety of things. And so I do lots of performance, but I also make drawings and I also play with text quite a lot. And a lot of my work comes from, goes back and forth between text and drawing and sculpture and performance. And maybe you'll see the overlap as we go along. So this is a performance that I've been working on for a few years. It's called M-ER. And you can fill in that blank with anything you want that fits in those letters. But the most common word that would go in that space is mother. But mother also is about matter and mastering as well. So this is a performance work. It involves an audience, and these are pre-COVID times. I was supposed to do it this year in 2020, but COVID pushed everything back. And I'll show some images and a little bit of video, and you'll see why we can never, ever, ever, ever do this during COVID. So this is the first iteration in Houston. I did it a second time in Seattle at the end of last year. And what I'm feeding them is Black ice cream made out of coconut ash. So for each performance, I basically, have a local ice cream place make the ice cream for the performance. So, our artisanal ice cream. And there, as you can imagine, there are lots of reactions to being fed substances, even with a clean spoon for everyone. In the performance, I embody a character who is everyone's mother. And so the premise is that the mother is, or a being, not necessarily even a character. The mother arrives and everyone has forgotten her birthday. And they have to deal with the consequences of that dynamic in a parent and child relationship. So here's a short excerpt from that performance. Happy birthday, dear mama. I have this many children, and you all somehow forgot my birthday. They enjoying this very difficult to split apart. It's difficult to find your own voice when was very difficult to, a person and you don't, right? It's like you want to get away, but you always understand, but you want to get away. You're getting friend, you're getting friend, she got money, she goes to you. She Okay. So, you would think that everybody wants to eat dairy-free, nut-free artisanal ice cream, and that is not the case. That's not the case. I asked Emmy, what, Cranbrook wanted to talk about or discuss, or what I could offer about my practice that students might want to hear about. And it was relayed to me that humor and improvisation and planning and what is unplanned are some of the things that that Cranbrook is interested in discussing. And so when I did it in Seattle, a writer wrote about the experience. And in that audience, there was a lot of refusal around the ice cream. Oddly and not oddly, in Houston, there was not a lot of refusal to eat the ice cream. But in Seattle, there was a bit of refusal. And she really had a really wonderful observation about what resistance means, and humor in the face of difficult subject matter, and the seemingly force feeding of this sweet substance brought a lot of juxtaposing feelings to the surface. And so at the end of this essay that she wrote online, she's like, hey, this is from the well-known artisanal ice cream place in Seattle, right? Like, top of the line, just eat the fucking ice cream. It's here for you, it's made for you. And also, what is this thing that's being rejected, right? What is the trick? And so I made a series of drawings where I really, really thought through, what does eat the fucking ice cream mean? And something about eating the fucking ice cream to me felt like be at the performance, be present there. And not all performances are ice cream, but yeah. Yeah, so I think for each performance, every time I wrote "eat the fucking ice cream," right, and put it to text and put it to words and put it into drawings, I really tried to think through what is this thing about the giving and the receiving. I tried to make sure that almost anyone could eat this ice cream. That was part of, I think, my role as a mother figure in performance, to just like try not to leave anyone out. But there's something, I don't know if this is from me or she wrote this about, you're so used to taking, you can't comfortably be given anything. And I think there was a discomfort in not being able to control the moment at which you're given something. And I think there's some conflict in there around a thing that happens in live performance, especially when you break that fourth wall and start engaging with an audience. And of course, I'm actually asking the audience to consume and asking in some way to be ingested by the audience. again, more examinations of, oh, I must have been a monster. I must have seemed like a monster, an ice cream monster. When the Kool-Aid guy, when he busts through the brick wall and he's like, drink this, Kool-Aid. So maybe that's what they were seeing with the ice cream, my offering of the ice cream. It was a trick by a monster. So yeah, so I'm like going down this rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, let's get into responses, right, to potential stimuli. And these are the ways I sort of like unpack moments in performance so that the next time I do it, I can discover more about the reactions to the things that I'm doing, right? So this is just a hypothesis, if you will. I thought I would just draw that connection. These are drawings from my practice. Inside of my note taking. I've begun this thing not too long ago about trying to think about what are the bones or the foundation of performances that I create and how I could break them down in a very, very minimalist way. Okay, so this is another another performance that also is very interactive with an audience, and the performance is called Yes No, a Cult, and it's another performance that I've done 1.5 times, and I plan to do in the future and build on it. And I actually did try to work with as few words as possible in this performance. My performances are usually very, very verbal. And this one is verbal as well, but I really tried to cut down on or even eliminate the presence of improvisational speech, right? To see where improvisation might be useful with a set series of words or set language. And this is at Human Resources, LA. One, two, three, four, 6, 7, 8. I'm realizing I think I started that video too far ahead. I'll just play the first few moments of it again. One, two, 3, 4, flats, blues, flats, blues. Yeah, and yes, no, a cult, I mean, obviously, it's a, well, maybe not so obvious. It's a meditation on cults and who can start a cult and what are their inherent qualities, I think within a Black femme body or existence or presence that that holds a particular type of authority that lends itself to a cult-like following. And maybe somebody can ask me a question about that and I can talk about that a bit more, about the cult of the Black woman in this moment. Yeah, so we'll get into that later. Research, humor. You know, obviously my work is full of humor and I definitely see humor as a way to understand people or a way to, as a tool for analysis, right? And part of that analysis is thinking about what other people find humorous. And that reveals, I think, information about their politics, about where they are, about their mental state, possibly history, their own personal histories, or even, I guess, cultural values, if you will. And so I watch a lot of humor and humorous television shows or films, et cetera, and I rewatch them to really mine what is it inside of me that speaks to me. But sometimes you end up in a hole. You end up in a hole in something that you really, really love. And the hole is, I think, the hole is about let me see, a place of, what is it? Problematic fave? Is that a thing? A problematic fave? A thing that you really enjoy, but it's racist or homophobic or transphobic. Like it drops off and it drops out in these certain places, right? And you, as a viewer, are left to deal with that. And that shapes how all the other stuff around it, how funny you find everything around the whole. I just made this up, by the way. But it's something I've been thinking about. So a show that I watch over and over again is 30 Rock, because I really like the pace of the writing. And it's an older show. I think it went off the air a few years ago. And this is something I'm thinking about going further. I'm going to further investigate this, but I just wanted to start talking about this. You know, the cast is multicultural, but there are always Black jokes, or the seat of the joke, the seat of the place of humor falls on Blackness. And almost Blackness as weirdness, Blackness as absurd, Blackness as too comfortable. I can't even really 100% touch the thing that Blackness does in this humor space. Right, so here we're talking about O.J. Simpson. He's not a golfer. you know, there's also this thing about white women continuing to mention O.J. Simpson forever uh, as a place of comedy. And I feel like as a culture with the Amy Coopers of the world, we really need to investigate like this figure in the imagination, right? Um, right, but I can't sleep with the black guy. I don't know if it's the same episode, but uh, again, she's making a joke, but it is about devaluing herself as a white woman to sleep with a white guy and this with a black guy. And this show has many problems, but it's usually good at a lot of things. Okay, and here's a joke about Wesley Snipes. It's not a tax joke, which is the joke that we love to make for so long, but just sort of like needing to invoke a black presence, right? To substitute the absence of actual black characters, black actors, black people making their own jokes or providing their own humor in the space. And the last one, the black one. Uh, yeah, I think there are many subtle ways in which the progressive humor also provides a real space to culturally backslide. So these are some of the holes I think that we're working through in our American cultural sense of humor, right? It still has this racial component that is hard to move past. So that's some of my, I guess my research as an artist, or how I fuel myself um, with humor. Okay, and part 3. Okay. So why don't we start doing some Q&A? Nellie, I can't hear your audio. So this is a portion of the Q&A, and I can totally just look at the Q&A and, you know, go for it.
Okay.
Or you want to do that, Nellie?
Morrison slide again. Is that possible?
I can hear you.
Somebody asked if you would be willing to share the Toni Morrison slide again.
Sure, I can do that. And while we're doing that, maybe we can go to the next question.
Okay. The next question comes from Hillary Meehan. She says, cultural sense of humor, yes, I see, especially in the last of the 30 Rock references as a bad in joke. But you're right to point them out as joking, but it's not gone. The racism or the need to keep working on it. Same for women's rights. I wonder, when you see her say, but I couldn't sleep with a black man, and there are more white characters in general with screen time, do black women say the same about a white man or a woman? Am I racist in asking this? I'm just curious, and I'm really nervous asking this, frankly, said Hillary Meehan.
I think that the humor is supposed to be about like the level of honesty, right? Because in this scene, she is talking to a black guy, right? And they're trying to find a solution to a problem, a problem that I guess arises in the world of Hollywood or entertainment, and like how to manipulate your image of who you are as a as a figure. And she says, oh, I can't sleep with a black guy, it's going to ruin my NASCAR endorsement. That was the second part of that statement. So it's about being in on these invisible, I guess, unwritten rules. Like, oh, okay. So the thing that we thought that people can and can't do, okay, they actually do think they can and can't do that. But there's something missing. There's something extra, and it's something that I didn't really see until I started watching it again years later. And I think that's the thing to think about in terms of like, how forms of media and entertainment and even performance and art, how it holds up over time. And because there's a shift in politics, there's a shift in consciousness, there's a shift. And this was not progressive or forward thinking, but this was something a little out of the box for that time. So it's not necessarily about what a white woman, a black woman say this about a white guy, because this statement, I can't sleep with a black guy because it'll ruin my NASCAR endorsement, is about the racism NASCAR. And we did see that in 2020, right? When NASCAR had to get rid of all the, the Confederate flags off their cars and in their realm. The noose on I guess what the car garage of the Black NASCAR driver. So this is years ago, okay? So they're speaking to a reality that we're just now addressing, right? Because we weren't ready to actually address the contemporary, we weren't actually able to address those actual circumstances, but a protest made that real today. So I don't know if the a Black woman talking about a white guy, it's not the same it's not communicating the same thing. I'll say that. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Autumn.
Sure.
The next question is, what is your process in creating characters?
I don't know if I create characters per se. I guess I call them, I say characters are shorthand. They're not necessarily characters. They don't necessarily, I come from the theater world, or like that's like my art education. And let me get her off the screen. Jenna Maroney. I think I create, I attempt to create like a mindset, if you will, or a particular way a person or a group of people might think about a thing. So I think I develop it by observation and trial and error, and in response to other people.
We would like to bring a question to you from Chelsea Flowers, who asks, what do you think the new normal for performance and participatory performance will be post-COVID? Do you see yourself feeding an audience or even having a live audience post-COVID? Do you feel like the impact of performances online versus in person has affected your practice?
I think it's affected my practice in that I am learning to adapt and to stretch and to adapt to this medium. So it's another thing to explore. I mean, I make video work, and that's not a thing that I always did, but I, learn the equipment, learn the software, and am steadily trying to understand, that form. So I think it's a similar process. Post-COVID, that's a big idea. Post-COVID. Well, I mean, as you can see around the world, and definitely in America, people need live face-to-face. People need face-to-face interaction. And so people do want that. People do crave that. Do they crave it in the form of performance and art? I don't know, but people definitely need face-to-face engagement. So I do think that when the time comes, it will definitely be a reason to gather and get back together. And I think I'm excited about doing performance again live, to see how our behavior will have morphed and changed, and our ideas about distance and space and how we relate to each other based on this moment. So I think it'll be an interesting time.
Someone has asked, Olivia Zivich asked, if you would please talk more about Toni Morrison and her relation to the freeze concept, as well as the cult of the Black woman.
Okay, the freeze. Toni Morrison. Toni, say that again, last part. The Toni Morrison in relationship to what?
The freeze concept, which she put in quotes.
The freeze. Please. Oh, like this?
Mm-hmm.
When I think, I did try to apply some levity to this definition or this hypothesis. I think when I think about freeze, I think about being settled. I think that's why I thought about like freeze in terms of ice cream, kind of solid and sweet, and sort of the need for that particular presence or state of was it a gas, liquid, solid state of atoms? I don't know. What's the state of materials or whatever. I don't think frozen in the normal, I mean, in the regular sense of people freezing and being paralyzed. I'm not looking at it in that way. I'm thinking about being steadfast, being grounded. And I felt like Toni Morrison was such a grounded presence. Like I was thinking about her documentary and her role in getting out the words of these important Black figures during that day as an editor, as a publisher. Like that was her role, but there needed to be some stillness, right, to do that type of work. And the other thing you mentioned was the cult of the Black woman.
Yes.
I think that Black women are there's I feel like there's people are listening to what Black people are saying right now, and I think when I think about cults, I think about, you know, the most charismatic leader and the figure that feels like they know what they're doing and know what they're talking about. And in the way that people project that type of leadership onto people. And I think people do that to Black women quite a bit. I don't know if they get the authority that goes with that role, but definitely, I mean, if you in media, Black women are often the judge, the boss, the chief, you know, like when women are allowed to have those roles. And it's very much, it's like, okay, I can say something and people just sort of respond, which is complicated because that's true and untrue. So it's kind of in many ways, a false notion of a cult leader, but we're sort of led to believe that right now. I think that there's this power, and it is there, but like to what degree, to what extent?
We have a question from Rebecca Parker who asks, or says first, you bring together so many seemingly disparate disciplines in your work: psychology, performance, wordplay, relational dynamics, etc. Has this always been an iterative practice based in the reflection you mentioned earlier, or is there more planning? How do you make decisions and navigate integrating each of these disciplines in a truly transdisciplinary fashion? She gave a shruggy and said, sorry for the art school word.
I think that I think of different genres as tools, but I also try to think about where my strength lies in the middle of that as well. And of course, I think in terms of being multidisciplinary, ideally it would be great to sort of, you know, be strong and know as much as possible, and in the areas that you utilize, so that they're stronger together. I forgot. What's the last part of the question?
Just asking about how you make decisions navigating or integrating each of these disciplines into a transdisciplinary form.
Over the last few years, or last couple of years, I think I've really learned or really start to employ the idea of editing into that process. Like, start with everything and then slowly, edit down. And think about like the things I think about the things I want to do and I want to try, and trying to be honest about, like, okay, what's going to work, and maybe you can do that on the next project. You do not have to do everything every time. So yeah, editing.
Do you feel comfortable taking a couple more questions?
Sure.
There are a lot of good ones here. Let's see. Declan Knight asked if you would talk just a little bit more about the yes and no occult. What did you discover in terms of what it might take to start and lead a cult? What do these ceremony performance events provide for the audience, and what for you as the artist?
Well, first of all, you need clothes. You need an aesthetic. You need you gotta have the aesthetic. You gotta have a pleasing aesthetic, or an interesting aesthetic, or an out of the box aesthetic. But it has to be pleasing. It has to be has to pull people in. You have to kind of be spare and sparse, right? Demonstrate some intention. Make the group feel like they are collective. Not that you're joining me, but that you're joining each other in a thing, right? And it's amazing. I found that the desire to join and to do a thing in lock and step with someone next to you is a very, 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 very powerful sort of, I think, behavioral desire for humans deep down inside, for us to do things together. I mean, like in the performance, I had to kind of repeat the things over and over and over and over again. But, people look around like, oh, you're actually going to do it? Oh, okay, then we're doing it. So I guess it's about also, feeling safe and wonder, and keep people guessing, keep people excited and active, and keep some fervor, and knowing how to use silence, because silence feels very, very holy and meditative. And what was the last bit of the question?
It has to do with, what do these ceremony and performance events provide for the audience and yourself?
I think the collectivity for the audience, and I'm not sure all of what it provides for the audience, but for me, it's data. For me, it's information. I think I love these experiments too, because I think I'm always interested in human behavior. So like the performance after it's done, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm discovering things about humans. I'm also discovering things about the limits of performance at the same time.
We have a question from Meryl Norlander, who asks, how is the interaction with a performance for you online instead of an audience in real life that you can touch and hear breathing? Did your performance change in nuance?
Yeah, I think I don't expect interaction online. I don't think I do. I don't think I can't expect the same level of connection. And I think that I have to be more intentional about what I put forward. I mean, I have done a couple of interactive performances, but not with an entire group, because it's difficult with everyone in their own space, you know, looking in a bunch of different directions. It's just not, there's something unfair also, you know, and then the agreement is different. When you're in a room together, you're in a room together and you're like, okay, we're here. This is a game that we're playing, but I'm in my own space. Like, I can do whatever I want in here. I have complete autonomy. And I can say that, you know, I had an emergency in the other room if I feel like I don't want to do this. So I feel like it's changed. I feel like I've had to like really explore the visual ideas about connection a bit more. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still working on it, but it's not the same. It's not going to be the same.
Doug Jones asks, what has been your favorite experience related to a performance personally, and why and where? Do you have a favorite audience that stands out? And what is it about their responses?
I don't have a favorite audience, Doug. No. I, in general, like when the audiences are a mixture of people I know and I don't know. Because then I feel like I'm on different levels. I feel like I can throw in an inside joke without having to directly talk to that person. I feel like, oh, okay, they're in the audience. They're, you know, some things are for you and some things for the new people. So I think I enjoy that experience the most.
I will try to say this name correctly. Nicholas Elbakidze asks, do you think the refusals were primarily based on the communal spoon aspect? In a church context, everybody using the same spoon and glass during communion seems to be less gross because you know the people within your community. If each participant was given their own utensil, would more people have been open to consumption?
I would never dream of giving an audience a communal spoon. They never had a communal spoon. Everybody had their own spoon. During those performances, I would basically get 100 spoons at least. So even if a person wanted seconds, I would not even reuse that same spoon. I basically fed the person and threw the spoon on the ground. And if they wanted seconds, I would get another spoon, feed them, and throw it on the ground. So the refusal is about something else. I wanted to make sure that I tried to outrun any notion of refusal, right? I tried to make it allergy free, you know, sanitary. Yeah.
You up for a few more questions? There are really so many, Autumn, and I want to be respectful of your time and energy.
Sure, we can let's say we're gonna end at 8:30 so that this is like a.
Excellent. Okay, great. Sarah Wise asked, did the idea of doing performance art come naturally to you? or was there a transition period from different forms of art making?
Yeah, there's a transition period. I don't think I mean, I grew up doing theater and visual art, but mostly theater. I mean, I have an undergraduate degree in theater, so I don't think I even knew what performance art or performance or live art or live performance was until much later. Um, that information for some reason wasn't quite available to me. Um, so yeah, I definitely did transition from theater to towards performance, towards these other forms. And I think that's more about just having more information. I mean, I'm sure there's some other form that if I knew about it, I would probably, I would probably not progress, but just sort of move in that direction as well, right? With more information. But I think definitely that's why my performances look the way they do. Um, being basically having my primary art education or art experience in theater. It's just kind of wired my brain to make things in a certain way.
Anonymous asks, can you talk more about the experience for you of being a quote mother to so many people in those specific performances?
Yeah, I'm not a mother in my life, but yeah, I felt really exhausted at the end of those performances. I felt really, really exhausted. And some of the conceit of the performance is about coming into the performance exhausted. Like, okay, I've gotten off of work. I had to go and get my own birthday cake and my own balloons. So I'm already exhausted. Y'all are making me tired. The least you could do is sing happy birthday to me. And the last ones in Seattle, I really tried to explore the narcissistic mother theory, where the mother has to kind of be at the center of, and I'm probably getting this wrong, but the center of the child's life, like everything that happens to the child, like making it about me or me as a mother. And that type of, inflation, of the self, it provides some energy, but ultimately it's exhausting trying to insert yourself in the center of someone else's psyche all the time. And it was exhausting. And I think definitely the refusals to eat the ice cream. There was one time where an audience member refused to take the balloon. And I think in the very first performance in Seattle, I think I did 3. I asked the audience to come closer to me, just move your chairs closer to the middle. And one person just wouldn't do it. They just would not do it. And they left. And just all of these different things, because I set up the performance as a container, like the mother as a container. The mother is like this ball of things that we project good and bad onto. And I definitely left feeling utilized, for sure. Yeah.
Madeline McGinn asks, how do you go about choosing the text that you end up putting in the final artwork?
The text?
Yes.
The text. You mean the things that I speak?
I think she's referring to the actual written text or the writing that you incorporate into some of your work.
I don't have a lot of written text in my performance work. Now I will say that, no, yeah, I don't have a lot of text, but in terms of the texts that I use, I don't know if this is answering the question, but I start with a Google Doc and I put all of this information inside this document so that I can sort of have my research in a place, and almost like, okay, I'm following a text or a line of thinking, and the text sort of comes through, I think, from that place, right? So gathering it and then trying to remember it, trying to remember all these ideas I strung together, but I don't have a lot of spoken, sorry, text in or specific text in my performances.
Another question from Chelsea Flowers asking, saying, hi again. What are some of your more problematic fave TV shows to watch? And I know The Office and Martin.
What you said, what's that last thing you said?
The Office and Martin are her personal favorite problematic TV shows.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely The Office. Definitely Martin. Martin is not so much a problematic fave, but it's not a sitcom, but like reality television. Definitely. Definitely. What else? I'm trying to think. I've watched some television has gotten really good. But yeah, I agree. I'll agree with those. I watch Broad City, and there's another show I watch, but it's basically this thing over and over again where it's white women using this this black sort of tool, like the blackness as a pliable device, right? Silly putty, really silly putty, or like the Armstrong man. You can make it into anything you want. So yeah, that's the. Yeah, I was talking about this not too long ago about wanting to see shows where people get to be a mess, and they're not a lot of shows where Black people get to be a mess, and if they do, it's not in the same way, to the same degree. And I think I enjoy those narratives, I guess, in hopes for a future time when mediocrity or being a mess is on the table for real. Yeah.
Emmy Bright asks, could you describe Sanity TV and how that project came together?
Yeah. Sanity TV is a performance where I interview people in the audience. And it started with having a studio by myself and talking to myself, and then talking to the chair and interviewing the chair, and feeling like I was feeling insane, but also questioning why that has to be so. I used to talk to myself a lot as a child, and there's a lot of information, I think, in the verbalizing, in the rambling, and then questioning. I used to talk to different things when I was growing up. So yeah, and then somebody gave me an idea to do it as a performance, because that was just done in front of a camera, like, and then I would interview one person in front of a camera in an empty room. Yeah, and then it grew into a performance, and it's improvisational. And yes, I think it's a lovely experience for people to kind of, think about, what's in the room. It's a sort of a TV. I mean, I embody or avatar as like a TV host, but it's not necessarily a television, program. Although there are cameras there always, but it projects out to an imaginary audience, and it's questioning. I saw the word saneism the other day. So yeah, so it's a question about saneism. And that,
I'm sorry, Autumn.
oh no, go ahead.
I'm gonna try to synthesize a group of people's questions into one because it's running along a similar thread. And that has to do with a combination of your studio practice and your personal well-being as a performer. Folks are interested in knowing how you get into a good space to start your work, and then how, as you're working with your audience, how you care for yourself.
I think I get into a space of, working by going back and revisiting all the things I'm interested in, and being honest about the things that I'm interested in, the many, many things that I'm interested in, and how I can pull them together into one space. I feel like I constantly, take notes, like all of these things that I presented were notes that I've taken. The life tips was when I was at this residency in the Headlands last year, and for the open studios, I didn't have any work. It's just me. So I started like asking for life tips. And part of it is basically putting it in a place for later, and knowing that I will come back to it. So coming back to that, the things that I love, the things that make me feel good, which is, watching things that are humorous, or watching dance performance, and then getting, in terms of taking care of oneself for the performance, I think it's about creating boundaries within the performance, within and around it. So time, like not letting a performance go on and on forever, just because the vibe feels right. Like, no, we're gonna stop, and that's gonna just have to be, that's gonna have to be enough. And I've actually started thinking about, what happens after the performance. And I've tried to think about looking back more at what I've done as a way to continue to take care of myself by revisiting and appreciating the work that I've done, the work that I've put out.
I think that one of the ways that you described how you have an end time answers a question that somebody was asking about, how do you handle ending a performance, or is it a cycle that just keeps repeating itself? It sounds like you've kind of answered for that in speaking to how you kind of care for yourself in that space. Do you think, if you have anything to add, please feel free to.
No, I don't think I have anything to add to that part. I think you said it well.
Folks have been giving you love in the Q&A, so you should check it out. And I think that we'll have Emmy come back over and
But
call it a night.
Good night. Thank you so much for everybody who's, you know, still here. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Thank you, Cranbrook. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Nellie. I'm so excited about continuing to work with you all.
Hi, thank you so much, Autumn. Really, really appreciate the time and you sharing your practice just so openly with us and answering all these questions. It's been a total delight for me and for everyone to just get to learn a little bit more about you and your work. So, you know, it's hard to do applause, but I'm going to do it anyways. Everybody's clapping along with me. If we had those hands in the grid, we'd give you those. So thank you so much, Autumn. Thank you for coming. And we look forward to having you digitally around the department. And thanks, audience members, for showing up and asking great questions. It's been a lot of fun to spend time with you tonight and look forward to seeing you at future things. So good night. Thank you. Adieu. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think people are saying things to you in the chat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Sarah, I'm not sure if the chat will be available online. We're going to have to review it first and then we'll let you know. But I don't know how you can email me if you want a copy of it and it's available, and I will make sure you get it. And if it's not available, I will tell you.
Okay. And, you know, hopefully there are a lot of students in there, so we can chat during their visits.
Yeah, there was a lot of people though. Autumn, we had 77 people at your lecture and Q&A. So, you know what, they're not all my students, at least not right now, but they might, a lot of them be Cranbrook students.
Oh, cool, cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks so much. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I think you're the host, so I think you're the one who gets to whoop.
All right, well then it's on me. All right, bye.
Bye.